by or on behalf of NLC and payments which were made in respect thereof in a manner that were not fair, equitable, transparent, comparative, or cost-effective, or contrary to applicable legislation, manual, guidelines, practice, notes, circulars, or instruction issued by National Treasury, or manual, codes, guidelines, policies, procedures, prescribed instruction, or practices, or applicable to the NLC and any related unauthorized, irregular, or fruitless and wasteful expenditure incurred by the NLC or the state. So when this investigation started back in late 2020, we had to face our investigation. So we had phase one, which was finalized some couple of years back. We also had phase two, which was also finalized. We were supposed to finalize the phase three in December last year, but because NLC proclamations are open-ended, we keep on receiving a lot of allegations while we are busy with our investigation. So as a result, we were unable to finalize phase three of our investigation. So we intend to finalize phase three on the 30th of June this year. We also received 690 new allegations that we are currently investigating. We have combined the allegations that we received from R32 with the new proclamation. So we are of the view that we will be able to finalize the investigation on the 31st of March 2027. We have also submitted one presidential progress report. Currently, we are about to finalize the second progress report that will be submitted to the president. The modus operandi by people who are siphoning money out of NLC. The problem that was uncovered was the proactive funding provision in the NLC Act that was targeted by those who were siphoning money out of NLC. Secondly, it is the NLC official and some board members who colluded with NPOs and NPCs to siphon money from NLC. This was done through the abuse of NPO and NPCs, and in numerous instances, hijacking of existing NPOs and NPCs. The SIU identified the following to be the root cause: inadequate project management, lack of monitoring and evaluation, ineffective auditing techniques for projects, general maladministration in the approval of the grants, system not geared to detect abuse, and corruption element. Key players in the NLC corruption. So we've got a number of people who were integral in the siphoning of money out of NLC. We've got internal people and outside people. In terms of internal people, the people who played critical role in the siphoning of money out of NLC are the Prof. Nebutanda, who was the board chair at the time, Advocate Huma, who was also a board member, Ms. TCC Mampane, who was the CEO at the time, Mr. Livingstone Ramatsekisa, who was proactive fund manager, Mr. Tsietsi Masela, who was head of legal, Mr. Philemon Litwaba, who was the COO. All these people benefited from funds that we looted from NLC directly. People from outside of NLC who were working directly with individuals within NLC are Mr. and Ms. Shandukani. They used their company as agents to loot money from NLC. So the funds from NLC were looted using the foundations and companies from Mr. and Ms. Shandukani. We've got Mr. Malwanje Suweya, Collins Chisimba, Temba Mabunza, Mr. Karabo Sitole, Daisy Litwaba, Tabu Litwaba, Johannes Litwaba, and Ms. Promise Karim. Then we'll move to the instrument that we used in order to siphon funds out of NLC. So they used companies such as M. Shandukani Holdings, Rasimi Family Trust, Iron Bridge Travel Agency and Events. Maybe just to explain further, M. Shandukani Holdings belongs to Mr. and Ms. Shandukani. Rasimi Family Trust belongs to Mr. Litwaba. Iron Bridge, Mr. Litwaba. Abrand Properties, Mr. Litwaba. Musokodi Water Solution and Drilling, Mr. Litwaba. Musokodi Farming, Mr. Litwaba. M. Shandukani Trading, Mr. and Ms. Shandukani, Nzuku Trading, by Mr. Swema Lwandle, Musokodi Trust, Mr. Letwaba, Kaunawetu is a proxy for Mr. Letwaba, but owned by the cousin. Red Tech, Mr. Letwaba. Ramuripo Trust is owned by Leslie Ramuripo. AO Trust is owned by M. Shandukan, Mr. Mashudu Shandukan. Danger Family Trust by Leslie Ramuripo. Letwaba Family Trust, Philemon Letwaba, Mujahomu Family Trust, the former commissioner, Ms. Mampan. Some of the NPOs involved in channeling funds to the NPOs. So majority of these NPOs, we have already submitted our civil litigation documents at the tribunal in order to recover the funds. The first one is Simba Community Development, which was granted an amount of 25 million rand and 89,000 rand and 736 rand. Some of the funds that we paid to this NPO benefited Mr. Philemon Litwaba's family through Abrand Properties and also the Commissioner Mampane with the purchase of the 3.6 million rand house for their benefit. The second one is called Audacious, which was awarded an amount of 206,000 rand. The NPO was hijacked by Mr. Lukuleni, a former employee of NLC in Mpumalanga. There is an NPO called the Sidibe Foundation, which received grant funding of 1,445,000 in Free State. The funds from this NPO were also channeled to Mr. Chueni, a former manager operations of NLC. Nothing was done, so the project was not delivered. The next is called Rihodile Community Development NPO, which received an amount of 15 million from NLC. The project was also not delivered at all. The funds were channeled to the families of Mr. Philemon Litwaba. The next one is NPO called Simingaye, which was awarded an amount of 13 million. The funds from this project were used to purchase furnitures for Prof. Nebutanda and other immovable properties for Mr. Sigudla. The next NPO is called Make Me Movement, which was funded for an amount of 17,792,000. The funds from this project were used by a person called Jacob Ramuhashi. He built a B&B called the Mountain Village. He also transferred some of the money to the transfer attorneys for the purchase of Prof. Nebutanda's house. The next one is called Ingabo Yokulinda NPO, which was granted an amount of a total amount of 19,278,000 rand. 2 million from this project paid for the purchase of Prof. Nebutanda's 30 million house. 10 million was transferred to a certain gentleman, but not for the purpose of the project. The next one is called the ORNA NPO. The NPO was hijacked and an amount of 23 million was awarded to the project for the construction of old age home in Northwest. Some of the funds from this project benefited Prof. Nebutanda, who was the board chair, and Philemon Letwaba. The next NPO is called Tusong Development Organization. It was also hijacked in Soweto, but the application was submitted in NLC Kimberley office. The entire 2.5 million was used by people connected to NLC, including Mr. Huhuntle Matseke, who was an employee of NLC at the time. The third one is a company called ZZET Enterprise. This is the company owned by the wife of Mr. Sibonelo Vilakazi, who was an employee of NLC in KZN office. He then used his connection to NLC to assist the wife to receive an amount of 26 million from the creches that submitted an application to NLC. The next one is an NPC called Spirinex that received an amount of 3,943,000. The entire project benefited Mr. Sigudla. The next one is it's a hijacked NPO called Lulamisa Community Development. The NPO received an amount of 80 million. The entire 80 million was not used for its intended purposes. The 80 million benefited Prof. Nebutanda, Mr. Litwawa, Mr. Siweya Malwandle, Mr. Mashudu Shandukani, and Temba Mawunza. The next one is an NPO called Uprising Youth Development. The hijacked NPO received an amount of 5.5 for a sports project in the Northern Cape. The entire amount was not used for its intended purposes. And the people who benefited from this project are Mr. Collins Chisimba and Mr. Jacob Ramuashi. The next one is an NPO called Mushumo Shabazwanda. It was also hijacked, and an amount of 20 million was then funded for this NPO. The funds benefited Mr. or Advocate or Prof. Nebutanda and Mr. Collins Chisimba. Some of the funds also went to Mr. Litwaba. The next NPO that was granted an amount of 10,850,000, it's an NPO called the Nyumbiseni Batsonga Machangana. The entire funds was used to benefit Mr. Temba, to benefit Mabunza Brothers, together with Mr. Suweya Malwandle. The next one is an NPO called Hanyanyani. It was funded in an amount of 13 million rand. The hijacked NPO funds benefited Mr. Collins Chisimba and his wife, Ms. Promise Karib. The next NPO, which was also hijacked, is called Limpopo Creation Providers. It was granted an amount of 9 million, and the entire amount benefited Mr. Collins Chisimba and Mr. Ndowini Mkutu. Another NPO, it's called South African Youth Movement, which was granted an amount of 22 million to construct a drug rehab in Mpumalanga. I can say that the drug rehab has been constructed, but 6 million from that grant funding was transferred to Upbrand Properties for the benefit of Mr. Philemon Letwaba. Another, again, the very same NPO called South African Youth Movement in Free State was awarded an amount of 30 million to construct an old age home. The old age home was really constructed, but an amount of 5 million was transferred to two companies owned by Mr. Letwaba's families. The first one is L Holding. The second one is Just Cubana, which was owned by Mr. Letwaba's wife. After the construction of this old age home, instead of utilizing the building for old age home, Mr. Sigudla used this building to house student, or used it as student accommodation for his personal benefit. The next NPO is called Hatelopili, which was awarded an amount of 880 85,000 rand. In Kimberley, Mr. Petra Sidibe and Johannes Khoza used the funds for their own personal benefit. This is the only matter that we submitted a criminal referral in NPA in Kimberley, where the Hawks conducted the investigation, concluded the investigation. The two gentlemen were arrested. They are currently attending court proceedings. The last one was on the 1st of March this year, where their lawyer told the court that they are going to plead guilty, but there were some differences between the prosecutor and the lawyer in terms of the sentencing. The lawyer wanted suspended sentence, whereas the prosecutor wanted straight jail. The next one is called Muteo. Again, this NPO belongs to Mr. Petro Sidibe. He was funded an amount of 9 million rand. He was paid 6 million rand, and the entire 6 million rand that he received, he used it for his personal benefit. There is another company again called TS Sidibe. It also belongs to Mr. Petra Sidibe. He received an amount of just over 1 million in Limpopo. He also used the entire amount for his personal benefit. There is an NPO called Special Agent for Youth in Kimberley, which was awarded an amount of 20 million, just over 20 million, and the project was built, but majority of the funds were used for the benefit of Mr. Mark Barons, Mr. Collins Chisimba, Mashudu Shandukani, and Mr. Philemon Lidwaba. The next one is called Fire Charismatic. Can you, because I can't see the document now. So Fire Charismatic also received an amount of just below 3 million for diamond and dooring in Kimberley, but the entire amount was used for the benefit of Philemon Litwaba's family and Collins Chisimba and Matozi Mashel. You can move to the next page. The next NPO is called Zipsy Mode. It received an amount of just over 20 million rand for circumcision, but the entire amount was not used for its intended purposes. The beneficiaries are Prof. Nebutanda, Pietro, Mr. Siweya, and Philemon Litwaba. The next one is Zipsy Bigs, that received an amount of 5 million rand. The project also benefited Prof. Nebutanda and Miss Petro. Another one is called Zipsy Craft. It received an amount of 4 million rand. The project benefited Prof. Nebutanda through the purchase of a house. The next one is called Madumelane NPO, which was hijacked in Northwest. It received an amount of 14 million rand. The entire 14 million rand benefited Advocate Huma, who was a board member at the time. It also benefited Mr. Ndowenu Mukutu and Mr. Collins Chisimba. The next one is called Litabong, which was hijacked in Polokwane and submitted an application and received an amount of 23 million rand for the construction of an old age home in Northwest. The old age home they tried to construct, but the hijackers left the project at foundation level. The funds of the project benefited Mr. Litwaba's family, Collins Chisimba, and Miss Matozi Mashel. The next one is called Taung Cultural Museum and Music Expo. It was awarded an amount of 20.1 million. The museum was constructed in Northwest, but some of the funds benefited, or the construction company belongs to Mr. Philemon Litwaba's family, and some of the funds benefited Advocate Marcelo, who was head of legal at NLC at the time. The next NPO is called Light Up Your World. It received an amount of 10 million. It was also hijacked, and the entire 10 million benefited Mr. Collins Chisimba his wife, Miss Promise Karibe. The next one is called the Kensani Nyango Foundation, which received an amount of 2.5 million. The whole amount benefited Mr. Howard Mashaba and Miss Kensani Nyango. The next NPO is called Matieni. It received an amount of 23 million. The NPO was hijacked in turn, though. It was awarded an amount of 23 million to build an old age home in Marapiane in Mpumalanga. The old age home was constructed, but it was not completed. Some of the funds were transferred to the benefit of Advocate Huma, like 5 million rand was transferred to our transfer attorneys in Northwest for the purchase of a house. Some of the funds were then transferred to the benefit of Philemon Litwaba. The next project is called Life for Impact in the 21st Century. The NPCs received an amount of just over 10 million rand. The entire amount was not used for its intended purposes, and the beneficiaries include Mr. Litwaba, Malwanje Siweya, and Themba Mawunza. The next hijacked NPO is called the Nje Primary Care, which was awarded an amount of 27,585,000. 6 million was used to renovate an existing drug rehab in Pretoria. The rest of the funds were then used by Mr. Leslie Rambulipo to buy properties such as farm and restaurants. Advocate Huma also benefited together with Philemon Litwaba. Philemon Litwaba's family received 6 million for the through Upland Properties. The next project is SASCOC stroke M. Shandukani, because M. Shandukani submitted an application through SASCOC as a conduit. The project received an amount of 24,830,000 rand. The entire amount was not used for its intended purposes, and Philemon Litwaba, through his family company, received 15 million. The remainder were shared amongst people like M. Shandukani through his M. Shandukani Holdings. The next project is M. Shandukani Foundation, which was awarded 4 million to drill and install boreholes in Eastern Cape. Our investigation has uncovered that the boreholes were not installed, and that the funds were transferred to the company belonging to Mr. Shandukani's wife and Mr. Litwaba's wife. The next NPO is called the Samaritan Initiative, which was hijacked by Advocate Huma, who was a board member at the time, and received an amount of 16.5 million rand. The chicken farm was constructed in Marikana, but that chicken farm was constructed in a land belonging to a company called Silverlight, and that Silverlight company is wholly owned by Advocate Huma, which then means that the beneficiary of the project was Advocate Huma. The second NPC that received an amount of 4.6 million rand is called Riahile. Riahile is an NPC of whose director is Advocate Huma's wife and nieces. Again, the project was constructed, or the project has a lease agreement with Silverlight, and the director of Silverlight is Advocate Huma, which then means that the beneficiary was again Advocate Huma. The next project is called Zipsilo, that received an amount of just below 26 million rand from NLC. The funds from this project, even though drug rehab was built in Pretoria but not completed, majority of the funds were transferred to the attorneys, the transfer attorneys, for the purchase of a property to the benefit of Prof. Nebutanda. The next project is called Zipsimanzi NPC, which was awarded an amount of 4.8 million. The NPC is owned, or the director of the NPC is the wife of Mr. Philemon Litwaba. And some of the funds from this project benefited Prof. Nebutanda, who was a board chair at the time. The next project is called Nunovation Africa Foundation, which received an amount of 31.9 million to construct a boxing arena in the Eastern Cape. Instead of constructing that boxing arena, they constructed a small hall in Eastern Cape, but majority of the funds benefited Mr. Philemon Litoba's family, Collins Chisimba, and Mr. Mashau, who hijacked the NPO. The next NPC that received an amount of 18 million, it's Saada NPC. The funds from this NPC benefited Mr. Arthur Mafokate himself as he purchased a BNB in Midrand for himself. Some of the funds he used for his personal benefit. The next one is called Ubuso NPC. That received an amount of 23 million rand. So immediately when the first tranche of 20 million rand was transferred, 15 million or 14 million of that 20 million benefited Prof. Nebutanda and Philemon Litoba's family through their family companies. So in this investigation, we are concluding this investigation, but there is also a property that has been purchased. But because we haven't given the person who benefited the right of reply, we are not going to mention, but we'll finalize the investigation soon. In order for people connected to NLC to siphon money out of NLC, they use the companies and trust. And these are some of the trusts that have been used in order to launder money out of NLC. The first one is called Rasimi Family Trust. The trust belongs to Mr. Philemon Litoba, who was the NLC CEO at the time. There is also Litoba Family Trust. There is also Mujahomu Family Trust belonging to the former commissioner, Ms. Mampane. There's also a trust called Ramulipo Family Trust, who's Mr. Nkumeleni Leslie Ramulipo, who hijacked several NPOs and received grant funding. So they used this one, including the trust called Musokodi Trust, belonging to Mr. Philemon Litoba.